Hi, CAMFT Chapters. How are you? My name is Beth Biggs. I'm the Cepa Program Coordinator, which stands for the Continuing Education Provider Approval Program at CAMFT. And I wanted to come to you guys with a webinar specifically for the chapters on your CE Provider Program. I know that chapters as providers have a lot of unique challenges that maybe other providers don't encounter because you're all volunteers. You have limited time, and you're often on a rotation schedule where one person will be in charge of CE programs for a year and then somebody else will come and take over. So I wanted to film this webinar so that it can be shared with other leadership in your chapter, and also for any new chapter leaders that come in that might be helping with the CE approval program. So we've had a lot of questions lately from the chapters on what kind of course content counts, and you know, if they're doing everything right, if the promotion's right. And so I wanted to kind of cover the basics about course content, what kind of courses you can offer for CE credit, which you can't, and also make sure you're aware that you can come to me or CAMFT at any time if you're unsure about a course, if it counts, or any questions about the course at all. That's why I'm here, and you can send that content to me and I'll be more than happy to look it over, tell you, what counts, what doesn't, give you suggestions. So I just want to make sure that you are all aware that we are here for you, and we want to help in whatever way we can. So please feel free to reach out. The CEPA email address is super easy. It's CEPA, C-E-P-A @camft.org. Or you can always call the main CAMFT line and ask for the CEPA department, and they'll connect you with me or with Mary Beth Murrow, who is the assistant, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So I wanted to start out first of all by talking about what really is the purpose of the BBS and of continuing education. And I think that when you're reviewing course content, this will be an important question to kind of ask and filter everything through. So the BBS is a regulatory agency, and it's within the Department of Consumer Affairs. So if you're looking at it through that lens, it's the Department of Consumer Affairs. And what they're tasked with is protecting and serving Californians by setting, communicating, and enforcing standards for safe and competent mental health practice. So you should be thinking about it through a consumer protection lens, that the continuing education that BBS licensees need to get is really kind of about consumer protection. So, kind of some red flags or things that you should consider when you're looking at a potential course that you think is something you want to offer in the chapter. You should look at the course title, first of all. A lot of information is going to come out of that title, and also for purposes of the BBS auditing or CAMFT auditing, course titles are very important. So it should be kind of to the point, and it should sort of describe what the content of the course is about. I know a lot of times instructors will like to put like a catchy title, which is great because it kind of gets people's attention, but just be sure that it's something that at least implies what it's about, or that it's content that will count. Any kind of courses that have anything to do with self-care for the therapist won't count. So it's continuing education is not really about self-care, self-improvement. It's about the relationship with the clients. So any course content that's being learned and counted for CEs really needs to be about that work with the client. So again, you might be teaching your clients self-care, and in that case, that's kind of a different story. But then the course would need to be focused on that, how you teach your clients self-care. It can't be self-care for the therapist. That would be a red flag. And then anything to do with finances, that's not, considered for continuing education. It's super important content, so is self-care, but we just have to be really careful about what kinds of subjects that we are offering for continuing education, because the last thing we really want is for somebody to take a course through the chapter and the BBS audits that person and they see, a course about, therapists, finances for your practice. They're gonna red flag that and throw that out. So, you really want to be careful about what you're offering, because the people who take the courses are really counting on you to have vetted everything and make sure that it does count. Again, anything that has to do with marketing for the business, super important if you're a business owner. Of course, you have to have a thriving business and you have to market to do that, but that's not continuing education. And then anything on kind of how to build a successful practice, those types of things, are red flags that you should consider. If you're talking about law and ethics of, a practice or something like that, then that's a different story. So again, there's kind of some gray area. There's some subjects that, would count if you crafted them in a certain way. So if you have questions about that, because we don't expect everybody to just know what courses count and what don't. So if you have questions, just reach out to us and we'll help you through it, help you figure it out. The other kind of nice thing that we just really confirmed with the BBS recently is that they allow hybrid courses. So let's say that you want an instructor to come in and do a 4-hour course on, building a successful practice. And for maybe 1 or 2 of those hours, they're going to talk about things that do count for CE content, law and ethics of your practice and client records and confidentiality and those types of things. But 2 of the hours, they're going to talk about really just how to be successful in a business and how to market. You can offer that course as a hybrid course. You just have to be super upfront with your attendees and in your promotional materials and let them know, these specific 2 hours, these are counting. You're getting 2 CEs. It's a 4-hour course, but you're only getting 2 CEs. As long as you're super clear about that and upfront, a hybrid course is totally fine. And we really like the idea of a hybrid course. I think it's really cool because there is a lot of content that won't count for CEs, but it's really important stuff. And, your members are going to be really interested in it. So that's something to consider there is a hybrid course. A couple of things I did want to talk about, because again, we've received a lot of questions from chapters recently, is about course syllabus. The BBS does specifically talk about course syllabus in the regulations. And so I'm going to pull up we have a template on our website. And if you're on the Cepa page, actually first I'm going to pull that up and kind of show you what that looks like. So here we are on the CAMFT website, and I've clicked on CE Provider tab. So from there, you're going to have this, welcome page that we have a lot of different things going on here. But what you guys are interested in here is CE Provider Resources. So you can click on it right here to the right. And as you can see, we have a lot of cool resources and tools to help you make sure you're in compliance, make sure, if you need a template and you just want to fill in the information, we have those things pretty much right here for you. So again, you can click on any of these things, download them, use them. They're here for you to use. So these are all for our providers. And of course, the Cepa manual is here, which could answer a lot of questions that anyone might have. Record of course completion, evaluation, lots of different things in here. The three documents I want to talk about today are these three at the bottom: the instructor course content worksheet, the sample promotional material, and then the sample course syllabus. So first I'm going to open the course instructor content worksheet. So we kind of created this based on a need that people had when they were working with an instructor. What kind of information do you need? What kind of information should you be gathering from the instructor? And for instance, if you ever got audited by the BBS or by CAMFT, this is kind of all the information that you would need about the course in order to justify, whether it meets the qualifications. So the beginning here is just kind of basic information. This is optional, but we kind of figured that was probably information that you're going to want to collect, their license number and that kind of stuff. But then starting at number 3, we get into instructor qualifications. This is probably something you're familiar with if you've been working already in the CE program. And that's that instructors must meet at least 2 of these minimum qualifications. So as long as they meet 2, it can be any 2. They can meet more than 2, but at least 2. So you'll want them to select here which of the 4 that they meet. And then the next one here is a course instructor's Vitae or resume. This is a requirement from the BBS, so you have to have one from every instructor, and that's something that you're going to have to keep on file. As a provider, you're required to keep certain documents on file for 4 years. This is one of those documents. So this worksheet that I'm showing you here, this isn't required, it's just kind of a tool to help you, but the course instructor resume is required. And you can use it to verify that they do meet the qualifications. If you're looking at their resume and you can't tell which of the 4 qualifications they meet based on their resume, then their resume probably needs a little bit of work. But that can be a helpful tool for you. But anyway, collect it from every instructor, keep it on file for 4 years. And then number 5 is again, more for you guys and maybe creating your promotional material, just for them to give like a brief description of their qualifications, because that's required to put on promotional material, the instructor's degree and qualifications to teach the material. So again, this is just a tool for you because they can put it, in a couple of sentences. You can copy and paste it into the promotional material. And then we get into workshop information here. So this is specific to the course that they are presenting to you, that they want to offer. Length of course, the level. But then number 5 here is the course syllabus. And we put right here what the BBS regulations state are the minimum qualifications, so that, you can tell the instructor, this is straight from the BBS. If they turn in a syllabus that doesn't meet these requirements, you can go back to this and say, this is a requirement from the BBS, and so it'll have to have these minimum things on it. So those are a general outline of the course with the main points for each topic, the educational goals, and the specific measurable learning objectives. So it needs to have those things at a minimum. It can have additional things. Some people put suggested readings, or information about the instructor. That kind of stuff is extra, but this is at a bare minimum. So, and you'll want things to be labeled properly, like educational goals labeled, learning objectives labeled, so that it's clear what's there. I'm going to show you a template for a course syllabus here in a minute, and we'll go further into detail on measurable learning objectives at that point. But we do have the definitions here, just in case, because a lot of people are confused about what's the difference between educational goals and learning objectives. So the learning objectives get super specific, and it's something participants will be able to do at the end of the course. And generally, it's a good idea to put a number in your objective because it kind of forces it to be measurable. So if you say list 5 signs of such and such, or identify 3 methods of such and such. That number, the 5 and the 3, do really force it to be measurable. So that's a good trick to use. Educational goals are much more broad, and they kind of describe the learning that will take place, things that the therapist or social worker can take back into their practice and implement later. But the learning objectives are things that they'll have right there at the end of the course, kind of tangible things. So number 6 is, this is also from the BBS regulations, courses need to have a knowledge base, and there's 4 of them. So methodological is based on a method, theoretical is based on a theory, research based on research, and then practice, which would be actual clinical experience of the instructor. Courses can use all of these knowledge bases. They can use a couple of them, but they do need to select so that you know which knowledge bases they're using. And then they need to provide citations and references to back up that information. So if they're selecting methodological knowledge base, they need to provide a citation or citations for that are about the method that they're discussing in the topic. So you'll always want them to provide that for you. And then number 7 here, this is also from the BBS regulations. Courses need to be one or the other here. Demonstrate credibility through the involvement of the broader mental health practices, education, science communities, and studying or applying the findings, procedures, practices, or theoretical concepts. I feel like most courses are probably going to fall under that. And then the other option is related to ethical, legal, statutory, or regulatory policies, guidelines, and standards. So anything about law and ethics or anything like that would be that. So you'll want them to select, because it's their content, they're the experts really in this course matter. You shouldn't have to try to be thinking, which one of these does this course meet? You should really be having them provide that for you. And again, references, we already talked about this. Generally, I think a minimum of 3 is standard. Sometimes they don't always have 3. If it's like a 1-hour course, on just one topic, they might not have 3. Sometimes if it's a longer course, they might have a lot of references and citations. That's, fine. But I would say if they just gave you one, that, they probably need to provide another one. And then number 9 is the workshop description. So you're going to want to put that in your promotional material. It's like a summed up version of what's going to happen in the course. So this is a helpful tool that you can just give to instructors that you are thinking about having provide the course. It kind of puts the burden on them. It's their content. It just kind of puts everything you would need right in one place. So that's that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and open the course syllabus template. So this again is another tool that we developed that'll just kind of help organize you so that you're making sure that your syllabus meets those minimum qualifications from the BBS. Yours doesn't have to look like this. The ones your instructors submit don't have to look like this, but it should be labeled a syllabus so that it's clear what it is. The things in red here are the things that are from the regulations. So the things that are required are in red, and then things that we just thought would be helpful are in black here, but you don't have to have those in a syllabus. So again, the educational goals need to be clearly labeled, the measurable learning objectives, and then again, we put that description of kind of what a measurable learning objective is. This is something a lot of providers struggle with, instructors struggle with, measurable learning objectives. So, it's important that you kind of have a grasp on that, because you're going to be reviewing learning objectives that are written by other people, that are written by instructors, and you're going to want to be able to tell at a glance, is that measurable? And then right here, we just did an outline for main points. And again, yours doesn't have to look just like this, but this is an example of how you could do it. the topic and then the main points underneath. So that is the syllabus. And again, you can find it on the provider resources section of our website. And lastly, I just wanted to show you our template for promotional material. This is another area that a lot of chapters had questions on. And I know a lot of chapters are sending promotional materials by email, and a lot of times some of the requirements get, pushed to the back burner and kind of left off. So this is here to help you make sure that you are including all of the requirements in your promotional material. And really the purpose of all these requirements is to make sure that your participants have all the information that they need about the course. It kind of makes it so that you're following regulations, so that you're asking about accommodations and grievances and those types of things. So it's really covering you, the provider, making sure that you are being upfront and you've got everything out there. And then it gives your attendees everything they might need to know about the course. So you can use this template. It's got everything already set up here. You could just insert your information for each separate course. Or if you already like the template that you're using, that's totally fine. But you might want to use this to kind of measure whether you've included everything. The list of requirements is in the Cepa program manual on page 5. So if you have any questions about what is required on promotional material, go to that list. So title, date, time, all that kind of stuff. You do need to list a course description and the learning objectives. If you're offering a really long course and you have a ton of learning objectives, you might just want to put a sampling here and then have them all listed on a syllabus that you can direct people to. You are going to want to put the instructor information, the relevant degree, and their current professional position. So why are they qualified to teach this position? And again, it can be a couple sentences, short and sweet, or if they have a description of that somewhere on the web, you can link it to that. You just need to specifically say, for the course Instructor Qualifications, go here and link that. And then at the bottom, this sentence is required by CAMFT of all our providers. It really lets your attendees know who you're approved by so that there's no question there. We did leave a space here for your provider number. You don't have to have it in this sentence, but it does need to be somewhere in your promotional material. So make sure you're putting this sentence, super important. An area of confusion a lot of times is there's another required sentence, and it's required from the BBS. So you've got 2 required sentences, and they both have to be quoted exactly. So it's this one by CAMFT, and then the other one is down here at the bottom. This is by the BBS. And this lets attendees know that this content, this 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever qualifies, meets the BBS standards for continuing education. You do need to let them know when their course syllabus, or excuse me, when the certificate of course completion is going to be given to them. So whatever your method is, generally we think it's a good idea for you to collect the evaluation to ensure that you're getting those filled out, and then give the certificate once you've got the completed evaluation. And then of course grievances, you have to give them an opportunity to air a grievance. So you do have to have a grievance policy. You don't have to put the whole thing on your promotional material if you're trying to save room. You can just give them where to file a grievance, so a phone number and email. But you do have to have the grievance policy available should they request it. And then accommodations. So accommodations can be a lot more than just wheelchair accessibility. It could be somebody who has trouble hearing, or with sight. And as a provider, you are going to need to first give them an opportunity to request special accommodations, so a phone number, an email, whatever it might be, a form. And then as a provider, legally, you're required to provide that as long as it doesn't put undue financial hardship on you. So, if an interpreter is going to cost more, more money than the chapter can really afford, then it would, be a financial hardship to do that. But if it's something that you can provide, like a wheelchair accessible location, then that's something you need to do as a provider. You also need to list the cost and the refund policy. And sometimes, your events might be free, but if they're not, make sure you put the cost and the refund and refund policy. And then who your target audience is, who, is it therapists, social workers, whoever you're targeting with this, you can put that. One other thing I'll mention really quickly is you have to let people know what is not going to count for CE. So if you're having a 2-hour if you're offering 2 CEs for something, you'll have 2 hours of CE content, and then let's say you're offering a 10-minute break for each hour. Your course would need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes because that break time does not count. So any additional time for breaks has to be on top of instructional time. So instructional time only, and you do need to notify participants of what that is. So that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you today. Hopefully make it short and sweet, something you can share. Again, please reach out if you have any questions at all. We're more than happy to help with anything, answer any questions you have. So reach out, and we hope you have a great year of offering CE. Thanks, guys.